Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us live. And for those who are watching by recording, thank you as well. We're off to a good start. Week one is in the books. We had some really good non-conference games throughout the state, and we have some video tonight that we intend to share from at least a couple of those games. So um, want to encourage you, please, first of all, referees, look for clips from your games that are plays that we can use in the continuation of our crew mechanics, crew communication, and then everyone, regardless of your position on the field, we encourage you to look for clips that are thought-provoking, have interest that we can discuss, break down. This is a safe place, so everything doesn't have to be perfectly officiated. This is a no judgment zone. We're all in this together. So please do not hesitate to do that. We'll continue with our Tuesday nights until further notice. So every Tuesday at 7, we will go with those that are able to join us and then record as we have in the past. Okay, we have a couple of crew communication and mechanics presentations tonight. The first one is going to be by Mike Gentry.
So this play happens late in the game. The score's 32-7 at the time. And the first thing we want to talk about is the quality of the call. I'm going to run it now, and we want to watch about the 49, 50-yard line towards the bottom of the screen. It's going to be our inflection point.
Is the defense or the offense up?
The flag is for the offense.
Yep,
Sorry,
we want to.
Who's the winning team, or who's up 42-7?
The defenses.
Oh,
Okay, plays are going haywire. All right, we'll go back to it. And I'll stop it at the inflection point. Is right there. The two players standing right on the number 50, the defender on the 5. And watch them. We're going to have a textbook grab and restrict. Now, as I let this play out, you're going to see that the player on the defense is the one that makes the tackle. So if we go back to probably week 1 or week 2 of our summer sessions, the 3 talking points on quality falls that you have to analyze instead of react to is, number 1, was it visible? I think we'd all agree that that was visible. Is it material? Now we get into the dubious part, because 2 and 3, is it material? And number 3, does it take anything away? I would argue that it doesn't take anything away, because the player that was being grabbed and temporarily restricted was the one that made the tackle. So on our crew, we like to stay off of those fouls. And if we let this run, we might get to see a crew conversation come in on this. Our back judge comes in. You see the flag there. And no, we don't get to see it. I'm sorry. So as I was talking to our short wing, the back judge comes in and said he saw the hold, agreed it was a hold, but it did not gain or take anything away from the defender, as he was one that made the tackle, and our short wing liked that perspective, and we chose to pick up the flag. Um, we have a teamwork or a culture on our crew that people are not hesitant uh, to speak one another after flags are down. We like to have more than one set of eyes at the point of attack as a crew mechanic, which we did in this play from our back judge. And that's also important because you're getting inside out looks, outside in looks. Um, and to establish those uh, kind of trust and conditions on a crew that people are willing to do that. One of the things is each week in our game, we pick out a different person on the crew to break down a game. That makes them less hesitant to speak to other members of the crew once we're out on the field like that. And that's seriously important to getting calls right. And that's one of the reasons that we're out on the field in this case, is to get calls right. We like to have a high level of call accuracy on our crews. And that's one of the way we do that, is by having a crew that's willing to listen to each other and have everyone's analysis of the play settled, and then make a decision on whether we want to keep that flag on the ground or not. Rich, that's about all I have on that play. And I believe we wanted to turn it over to Caleb now,
Well,
unless there's something you want to inject on this.
yeah, before we turn it over to Caleb, a couple things. First of all, congratulations to you and your crew that you've developed this sort of culture, this trust in one another, that you're willing to come in and provide information, both flags that are down and perhaps even later in the year, maybe this week, maybe come in with some information to put a flag down. Um, but working together as a unit cannot be overstated in terms of its importance. Now, you'll note that the official at the bottom of the screen was having a conversation with the potentially offended coach. So that's also an important piece of this, and it's something that we did talk about during the summer when we talked about sideline communication. And the vernacular is very simple. You know, the coach is going to say, "Why did you pick up the flag?" Coach, the action, don't say a flag, don't say the foul, say the action by the player did not take anything away from the opponent, and therefore there was not anything there that we needed to call. Something to that effect. And then if you get some response back, then the other thing that you say is, Coach, if the conditions were reversed, we would do exactly the same thing. That should be the end of the conversation. We're not going to extend that conversation. He asked a question, we gave an answer, and now we need to return to playing football. Referees need to make the ball ready for play, and away we go. Okay?
That wasn't
Very
word
good.
for that wasn't word for word, Rich, but the message was the same that was delivered. At the end of the explanation, he told him, Coach, if it happened in your favor, you would be granted the same courtesy.
Right. Right. The other thing that's important is that the flag pickup and the fact that we did not enforce that as a foul was consistent with what had happened earlier in the game. So the no foul on that particular play, if we hadn't thrown the flag to begin with, we would have had consistency based on what decisions we had made earlier. That's also extremely important, so that one call or one flag pickup does not stick out like a sore thumb. In fact, the flag pickup makes it more similar than it does different. Okay? Good job, Mike. Very, very important concept, and hopefully we all learn from that. All right, now go ahead and do your introduction of our next speaker.
Fellow officials, allow me to introduce Caleb Norgard. I've known Caleb for about 5 years. I first met him at a training session for rookies on a scrimmage day at South Lyon High School. And his growth over the last few years as an official and specifically on a back judge on his crew has been a beautiful thing to watch. So, Caleb, it's all yours.
Appreciate that, Mike. While they're pulling up the play, in the OK, we have 5-man crews. So a little different than the 7-man mechanics we see in most of these film. The situation we have from our game is a quarterback potentially crossing the line of scrimmage, returning behind the line of scrimmage, and completing a touchdown pass. So one thing to note here that we can discuss in a bit is we are in goal line mechanics. As the back judge, I am on the end line, and our line of scrimmage officials will be getting ahead of the play to the goal line. So we can run this play. As you can see, he steps up, spins. As you can see at the back judge there, I did slowly scan the field for any potential flags for illegal linemen downfield or anything else before I went up for the touchdown. I think one thing we want to be careful here is signaling a touchdown and then taking it off the board because we have a flag down or something else. So that's one thing as a back judge, I try to be slow on touchdown signals. From our line of scrimmage officials, as this play develops, you can probably see the top of the screen. He will get to the goal line. As soon as this play finished on the O2Os, we asked 2 questions. One, did the quarterback cross the line of scrimmage? Both line of scrimmages thought he was safe. And the second one was, are our linemen good? And the umpire, along with the line of scrimmage, said no. All linemen stayed at the line of scrimmage. We are good. And so the discussion here is technically who owns this line of scrimmage. And for the NFHS rules, it is one arm, one leg beyond the line of scrimmage when a pass is thrown is an illegal forward pass. However, in high school, once you've crossed that line, you are legally able to return behind the line of scrimmage and complete a pass, unlike the NFL and college. There's a casebook play, I think it's 7.5.1a, that specifically talks about this. But we didn't really have a great answer for who ultimately owns the line of scrimmage here. Our umpire should be stepping up a little bit, but that's a tough call for him. Talking to our white hat, he recommended our line of scrimmage officials to note where the quarterback threw the ball from, coming back to that point, and then making a ruling. I think that would align with a slow flag and our 1-2-3 approach to really understand where the pass was thrown. And a lot of these plays, too, the quarterback's momentum will be taking him beyond the line of scrimmage after he releases the ball. So these ones, the OK wants us to be very careful that we do not flag an illegal forward pass unless it shows up on film that he is beyond the line of scrimmage. The last thing I have is from a back judge perspective. When this play starts, we have trips to the top, so I'm watching up there. I think the third receiver in is the tight end headed to Georgia. So he was one of our keys to watch. There's a little bit of hand fighting on this play that I ruled as insignificant. And then I move over to the right after the scramble to make sure that I'm in better position to rule on something. And then I try to get stationary at the catch.
So which receiver is the tight end again, Caleb?
It's a little hard to see. Oh, no, actually, I'm wrong. He's at the bottom of the screen, 17 there. And as you can tell, they respected him. There was a timeout called before this play, and they decided to double team him. As you can see, the safety behind the DB.
Okay, run it again, Cody.
I was
That
wrong.
is
This is not the play I was thinking about where there was some
okay.
hand fighting. So I'm wrong there.
Okay. Well, once again, in terms of whether this is a Division One player or a player that is playing his last football this season, we want to look at advantage, disadvantage. Um, so, if the defensive back has good technique and continues to be legal, we play on. So um, that's just a good guideline, regardless of the circumstances. And this is a very difficult area of the field. The 7 yard line. If this is a 7-person game, we're sending the field judge, side judge to the back pylon, which then means that we have that 21 feet between the snap and the goal line. And now that doesn't sound like a lot, but here's the perfect example of the fact that we get into circumstances where, um, particularly with the federation rule, where anything over the line at the time that the quarterback is throwing the ball is a foul. So you can see, first of all, that we need to do a good job with that. And periodically, we've talked about the importance, whenever possible, of putting the ball on a hash mark, or not a hash mark, a tick, a yard line tick. Think about this from the 6.5 as opposed to the 7. Is it more complicated at the 6.5 than it was the 7? You bet your booty it is. So when we have an opportunity to put it on a yard line, we want to do it. And this is a great example of that. Now, the other thing that I would say, and I respect in 5 or 7, the mechanic is that the short wings at the snap go to the goal line. All right. Now, I would say to you that the further away you get from the goal line, for instance, the 7, um, you might get started and then read the play, as opposed to immediately going all the way to the goal line. Somewhat, in this particular case, maybe taking a couple of steps downfield to the 5 or the 4, prepared to go to the goal line if the play develops that way. But in this particular case, it would be helpful if either one of the line of scrimmage people or both started downfield and then recognized the situation and were able then from maybe the 5 to make a determination in terms of where that quarterback was at the time he threw the ball. Now, if this is a replay game, if this happens at Ford Field, then replay can get involved in it and potentially, well, I don't know. I don't know whether this would be a reviewable play. I guess maybe I'm taking a ride on that one, but potentially replay could get involved. But as Caleb said, the key factor is that in a situation like this, we have to be absolutely certain that the quarterback has crossed the line. So a great crew discussion point all the way around in terms of A, the rule, and just as importantly, B, the mechanics. So when you're snapping 5, 6 yard line, maybe we are thinking about reading the play before we go all the way to the goal line. And not that that's perfect either, because maybe we have something happen real quick and now we've got diamond cutter at that pylon. We have to officiate the game and we have to do the best we can. And sometimes it doesn't always work out in our favor, but um, discuss that and potentially maybe make a minor modification to it. So, Caleb, thank you very much. Caleb stepped out of a meeting to present this play, and if you can stay on with us, great. If not, thank you for your time and keep watching. And if you have plays for us in the future, please pass them on. Okay?
Yep, will do.
Thank you very
Hey,
much.
Rich,
Yes.
do you have any suggestions or tips, particularly in a five-man crew, for the back judge on making sure, as this play develops, you got to read the play, obviously, to know where you're going, but making sure we have eyes on a player who would potentially go out of bounds off the end line like this.
Mhm.
So this player steps out, he comes back in, he's not entirely that far. He could be the target for a pass at this point.
Yeah.
So, do you
Well,
have any suggestions on how to
sure.
make sure that we get eyes on players potentially stepping over the end line?
That's a really good question, Cody. And here is a technique that might help you a little bit. Caleb, who is the back judge on this game, is standing right on the end line. Now, you do have some latitude to back up. So in a situation like this, maybe you back up further into the white. In terms of being able to see the white, it's just like the sideline. That foot coming down, it's not necessary for you to be straddling the end line to be able to make a good decision in terms of whether there's a blade of grass between the foot and the white. Okay. So maybe backing up a little bit back towards that standard holding the goalpost up would be helpful. But you just got to do a lot of windshield wiper type of thing with your vision. Um, it's a tough situation in five. You get some help if you have seven because you have the side judge and the field judge that can kind of um, zone up the end zone. But here, um, to a certain degree, maybe you get a little bit of help from your short wings, but you got a lot of responsibility there. It's one of the shortfalls, shortcomings of five-person mechanics. But again, we have to referee the game and do the best we can. And that's what this crew did. And they very properly so were supported by their coordinators out of the West Michigan chapter. So good play to learn from. All right. We're about just short of 7:30 right now. So I want to show you a clip from it happens to be a college game, but um, it's significant because it illustrates something that we have talked about over the years, and we spent a little bit of time on it as we were getting ready for this particular season. So hopefully what you can see is the screen that I've shared. Um, Cody, can you see that?
Yep, I can see it.
All right, what we're going to get is we're going to get a pass down here to the bottom of the screen. All right. Now I'm going to let it run through without interruption the first time, and then we'll go back and take another look at it. This is a seven-person game. Um, so we're going to have a poll after we've looked at it live. And it's anonymous, and there's not a right answer or wrong answer. There's just going to be an answer here. And the choices are going to be catch, fumble, or incomplete pass. Okay. So with that introduction, we'll let it play. Is that running smoothly, Cody? All right, now it's returned for a touchdown. Cody, did that run smoothly? Hello.
Yeah, it did.
Okay, good. So there's your one and only look at it. You only get one look on the field. So now you got to make a judgment. Is that a catch fumble or is that an incomplete pass? So please, Cody, you want to put up the poll, please?
Yep, it's up now.
Okay.
Uh, two, uh, two, two people said catch fumble. 10 people said incomplete pass.
Okay. So um, the let's start with incomplete pass. Do we have a volunteer to defend your position why this is an incomplete pass?
I just didn't think he made enough of a move after he had the catch. I think he had the ball, but didn't possess it long enough for a catch.
Okay. Anyone else want to contribute?
Yeah,
All right,
Rich,
go ahead.
I'll throw this in there. Those axioms come in those moments when you have those bang bang plays, and obviously the axiom that's been taught to us over the years is when in doubt, wipe it out. No easy fumbles, no easy scores. So when you have a bang bang play like that, at least from my perspective, those axioms tend to jump into your thoughts when you're reviewing that in the moments you have to kind of digest what you see and apply that to the situation to make your ruling.
Okay, very good. Very good. All right, now a brave soul that said that was in the minority position on this particular issue. Can you give me your rationale, please, in terms of why this was a catch fumble?
I'll
Rich,
do my
I want
best, Rich.
Okay,
I saw him catch the ball. He secured it. He made a football move, and then he lost the ball.
okay. Well, first of all, the reason why we're showing this is extremely tight. Okay. The Graham in the top row can see when the ball goes through the receiver's hands or the receiver is hit by the defensive back immediately upon the ball arriving. Anyone can call that. All right. These are the ones that we learn from. These are the ones that are the most instructive and helpful to us moving on. All right. So now let's go back. And this time I'm going to slow it down. Okay. At the key moment. I'm going to speed it up to get to that particular point. All right, I'm going to stop right there. Okay, two hands are firmly on the ball. Okay, there's our first check mark. Now, to have firm control of the ball, what do we have to do? We have to bring it in. The current terminology is high and tight. That's what coaches talk about. That's what they're teaching to players, whether they're running backs or receivers. So, what's going to happen here is that the receiver is going to bring the ball down to make a football move, which instead of coming straight up with the ball, he brings it down and then it gets knocked out. And again, this is very, very close. On this particular play, if this ball goes up to the shoulder pads as opposed to down to the waist, I would agree that this is a fumble. But because the receiver, and of course, we're looking at this in slow motion, and we're going to look at it one more time in real speed. But because the receiver does not bring the ball into his body, the process of the catch has not been completed. Yes, he made a football move by turning outfield, but we need to have both. We need to have firm control and we need to see a football move. So we check one box, but we don't check the other. But again, it's really, really close. So I'm going to back it up a few frames and we'll run it one more time and watch what happens with the ball. So this gets knocked out of there. All right. So again, it's very, very tight, but when in doubt, wipe it out. Someone mentioned that. No cheap turnovers. This is a play that we'd like to see made incomplete. And again, it's very, very close. If a split second that ball gets up to the shoulder pads and tight to the body, and the ball comes out, that would be a fumble. Now, let's take the next part that is equally important. All right. We're going to let this run through. The ruling initially is a fumble. We get a beanbag down and we immediately get a return for a touchdown. All right. We get our short wing here at the goal line extended, did a good job there. And our deep wing, I don't know if we get him into the picture just yet because he's downfield. And we don't. All right. So let's look at it from the end zone view. Now, while we're waiting for the end zone view here, let me say that at the end of the play, what I would like to see happen, the short wing, the deep wing, and the back judge all come together for a discussion to review what just took place. Okay. Talk it through. Did we have firm control? Did we have a football move, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? All right. And we did not do that in this particular case. All right. So a teaching point for the crew on the field. See how quickly that ball comes out. It came out because he'd not had time to bring the ball up to his shoulder pads. He's in the process of turning as he is getting his meat hooks on the ball. Now here's our deep wing right here. He's watching the sideline, as he should, to make sure that he stays in bounds. All right. Now he's coming slow. Now I've talked with the field judge here, and the reason why he's coming slow is his wheels are spinning. Okay. He's going, whoa, wait a minute. What just happened here? So he's processing the play. You can see the line judge is looking back to confirm that the deep wing has the runner all the way in bounds and that he's not going to come up and make him short of the goal line. All right. So in my conversation with the field judge, what I said was, all right, it's fine that you're processing that play, but now you need to bring your process down here to the line judge, to the back judge. He needs to come over and, if nothing else, be a sounding board to say, all right, what just happened here? Let's talk this through. Let's make sure that the ruling on the field is what we want to go with. Okay. Now, the referee probably is not going to be able to be much help. He's watching the quarterback. So he probably doesn't really know much about what just happened here. Umpire, maybe. Umpire might have a view. And if the umpire does have an opinion, by all means, should join the conversation. That goes along with that crew culture that we have been talking about all summer. Now, in this particular game, this was a hybrid crew. So these are people that don't necessarily know each other well. They don't regularly work as a crew. And that certainly is one disadvantage to not having a solid crew on a game. So in a replay game, my guess is that we're going to reverse this out of a catch fumble and fumble recovery for a touchdown, and we're going to make it incomplete and go to the next down. Now, the offensive coach had burned their challenge because they were incorrect in terms of challenging something earlier in the game. So they were powerless to have really any formal look or discussion at this particular play. Okay. So a good play to learn from. And again, extremely close. So the two of you that said catch fumble can completely understand and defend your position. In this particular case, when in doubt, wipe it out and no cheap turnovers. Okay. All right. Now we've got some plays we want to look at. Let's start with a couple of plays from the West Michigan Association and the Rockford. All right, we'll go with that. You got that up, Cody? We will go to MHSAA. All right. This first play is obviously a punt. You'll notice that we are snapping from the 48, so we know that the goal line is in play at the other end of the field. Now, to introduce this play, go back, Cody. The operative thing that we want to look at is the flyer up here at the top of the screen, just inside the 50-yard line. And obviously, he's defended by a Team B player. Now, let it run. So far, so good. But then he grabs the player's arms and jerks him down. All right. That is an OH that we want called. Okay. It's similar to a takedown. It actually causes the player to go to the turf. And it's done illegally because the player grabbed the arms or the shoulders and just jerked the player down. So this is a foul that we want to get. This is primarily going to be the responsibility of the field judge or side judge. If we do have the benefit of the short wing getting a look at it or sensing that we have an issue, great. But this is the primary responsibility of the deep wing. All right, now let's look at the second block at the second level, right there at about the 33-yard line. All right. Now, because the first guy went down, we're in the process, hopefully, of throwing a flag. We might see the tail end of that from a deep wing perspective. This is something that should be picked up by our short wing. Maybe the umpire, although no, he didn't turn in time. He sees the guy laying on his belly. He might get the third one there. But that is a play that the short wing has got to be prepared to deal with. All right. Now, the third block is a nothing. That's a nothing burger right there at the end of the play. There's kind of a little bump and run there, and you can see that it's pretty much accidental. The green player helps the orange and white player up. We'll leave that alone. That's nothing that we want to deal with. All right, next clip. Now, this is going to be a play. Go ahead and let this run. What we're going to get is a hit near the sideline. Now, the runner is slowed. He's got 2 feet down out of bounds. Yeah, he's kind of pulling, but he's got 2 feet down out of bounds. This defender has to be held accountable for this. He should know this guy is down. And to add a little more credibility to the fact that this is a foul, if he thinks this guy is still up, what's he going to do? If this guy is still up in the field of play, he's going to take him down in the form of a tackle. He's not going to push him. He pushes this guy down. We get the flag from the short wing. From a deep wing perspective, we've also got to see that and be prepared. And in this particular case, I'd like to see 2 flags. Now, the deep wing comes up and wants to ensure that this player comes out successfully. But note, there's no opponent in that area. These people in civilian clothes, they're not going to do anything to this guy. All right. So we don't need to make this a high priority as the deep wing does here. Looks like he's in a hurry to get the ball. Like we talked about this summer, we'll get you a ball. We don't care about the ball. We care about action around the sideline. And you can see we still have opponents in the general vicinity. So deep wings, forget about the ball, concentrate on whether the runner is in danger. If this happens 15, 20 yards further upfield and goes into the green bench, yeah, this is probably a higher priority. But here, there's nothing going on. And coming for the ball is way, 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 way down on the priority list. Back judge, you've probably come to somewhere near the hash mark and you're looking at these opposite jersey colors to make sure that somebody doesn't make a bad mistake. Okay. All right, next clip. All right, this is going to be an anticipated short kick. All right, now if we get a touch in there by white, by team B, we need to make sure that we've got a wind. Now, we can't really tell for sure. It looks like probably that ball is muffed, but as soon as team A has firm control of the ball, there we go. Firm control can do something common to the game. We got to shut this down because, as we know, Team A can only recover. They may not advance. Now, the other thing we need to be concerned with, and referee, this is going to be on you, is when these kickers cross each other, that's fine. Nothing says that the designated player who is kicking or you think is going to kick has to kick the ball. But if a player other than, like, the kicker is able to be further back than 5 yards. So if that player doesn't kick the ball, he's fouled because he didn't kick the ball. All right. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is when we cross, do we have four players to the left of the kicker towards the top of the screen? Referee, you are going to be the only person that can make that determination because we've got six in the box. Now, we're not going to nitpick that guy that is right behind the kicker there. If he's close to home, we're going to leave it alone. And like anything else, we want to be able to make sure that anything we call is obvious that he is clearly would be to the right of the kicker. Now, in this particular case, we already have four players over there. Eliminate that and now say that no, with that player kicking the ball, there is only four. So again, that player that is pretty much right behind the kicker, as long as he's in the vicinity, we're not going to nitpick that. But something to talk about and prepare for in your pregame this week. All right, 104. 139, sorry. I'm sorry, 104. All right, we'll go to 109. What we're going to get is a DPI at the top of the screen. Now, this is pretty obvious. The defender is not playing the ball, early contact. The ball is certainly close enough that it's catchable, and we're going to penalize the defense here. Cody, is that full screen? There we go. All right, so
As big
a
as I can
good
get it.
a good example of DPI for not playing the ball. Now, the other reason for this clip being in here, if you go back to the snap is at the 27. Now, if you were with us during the summer when we were talking about base mechanics, we talked about the fact that back judges have three options for their initial position. The two obvious ones are the goal line or the end line, but there's a third, and the third is approximately midway in the end zone. Now, snapping at the 27, depending on down distance, the tendencies of the offense, it might be the right thing to do to go midway in the end zone. In this particular case, the back judge makes a decision to be on the end line, and that's fine. But if you feel that this may be a running play or the team doesn't throw a lot or whatever the conditions may be, know that you have the third option of being midway in the end zone. So if you run it, you'll see that the back judge gets involved in this DPI, throws his flag from the end line. Okay. Perfectly permissible. In fact, probably on the basis of the fact that the receiver got down to the 10-yard line, he may have backed up to the end line anyway. But that's the second purpose of this particular clip. Okay, next one. All right, this is going to be another no catch situation. All right, now, did the receiver have time to secure possession of the ball and do something common to the game? Now, this gets knocked out unintentionally by a teammate. This doesn't matter how it comes out, and hopefully, based on the first clip that you saw from that Valpo, that college game, that we want to make this incomplete. Okay. Just not enough there that we are going to reward the defense for a turnover. All right. Next clip. What we're going to have now is reverse mechanics. We're going to have an intercepted pass at the bottom of the screen. Okay. Ball is underthrown, it's intercepted, but now our deep wing shows great speed coming down the sideline, but almost gets lunched at the sideline. All right. Now, think of this like a punt return when you've got an intercepted pass or anything now that we have a return. We don't try to stay parallel with the runner on a punt return. We don't want to stay parallel with this player who's returning the intercepted pass. Stay behind it, 5 to 7 yards, for a couple reasons, your safety, but in the event that the runner decides to reverse his field, you're going to want that distance to be able to help you retreat, to stay behind it so that you can officiate it properly. So here, I would give high marks. I would get A+ to the deep wing for hustle, for speed, but I would grade this as a C- in terms of covering this play like a punt or a return. Okay. Next clip. This also is going to be another example of reverse mechanics. All right, that's not the one I was expecting. Oh yeah, it is too. It's the ball comes out of there at the end of the play. Now we've got our short wing right there in position. Now the decision that we have to make is the forward progress by the runner, is that stopped? Or has the ball been dug out of there before that occurs? Okay. And we don't have good enough video to determine that. Now, when the ball comes loose, we need to get it beanbag down. If the short wing is ruling this to be a fumble, we want to get it beanbag down. And then in this particular case, because this gets recovered and it becomes the end of the run right away, it's okay for you to come back short wing to take this progress spot, particularly if you've got your deep wing a considerable distance downfield. The situation that we want to defend that causes the short wing to go to the goal line is when we have the potential of the goal line being threatened. Okay. But good alert. I like the fact that the short wing is thinking reverse mechanics and is giving ground. And you can see that our deep wing was busy at the time and now is coming up to take the forward progress spot. So when it happens that quickly, just stay there, take the forward progress spot. And then obviously the deep wing is going to do the opposite from what the short wing is doing. If the short wing comes back to take progress, then the deep is going to slow down, is going to broaden vision and work this as a dead ball play around the recovery spot. Next clip. This should be 36 in a different game. All right, go to 36, Cody. All right, video is not great here, but it illustrates a great point. This is a 5-person game, but this concept applies whether it's 5 or 7. So go back to the origination of the kick and stop it. All right, so we have our umpire. This happens to be the umpire that's at the 50. Now he's midway in the white, and I like umpires, back judges, and everyone. So if you have 6 in the box, I'd like everyone on the back edge of the white. That'll give you more space. It'll also lead to having people, coaches and players, out of the white, which is going to give you more room. But now this umpire is either on the basis of good scouting or just alertness. He's going to recognize this as a pop-up kick, and now he's going to direct his attention towards the fair catch signal and the catch that is made. So let it run again. I guess he didn't signal for a fair catch, but he made the catch and he was on his feet and then he went to the ground. So we need to have some time off the clock. So you can see that in this case, the umpire winds the clock and then immediately stops it. Now, the other part of this, and this is where the crew comes into play, someone has got to know that a second went off the clock. And if we don't get a second off the clock, we use the microphone and we simply say that the free kick was fielded by a player on his feet, immediately went to the ground. Therefore, please adjust the clock to the comparable number. Okay. Good job there by the umpire. Would expect that one of our deep wings would handle it identical to that one. All right, next one. Now we're going to get a fumble recovery up near the far hash at the top of the screen. Ball clearly comes out. All right. We get a clear recovery. All right. Now we get our short wing coming up, signaling that we have a recovery. What I would like to point out in this particular case, again, 5-person mechanics, the back judge comes hard all the way up there. Now, as soon as you recognize you have a clear recovery, that there's no question about who this ball is going to belong to, you need to slow down. You need to slow down. This is great hustle by this individual, but we don't get anything out of this hustle. Okay, there's no value added to coming up this far, this hard when we have a clear recovery. Same thing in a 7-person game with the deep wing. All right, we're going to close down. We're going to accordion in somewhere around the numbers, maybe even a little bit further. But as soon as you get that clear recovery, stop. Stop. Don't keep coming. We don't need to have a convention at the spot of the recovery. Okay, next clip. All right, now you're saying, okay, PAT, referee call, right? Okay. Now I'm showing this for a reason. This is clip 99, and you can see that we've got a 34-6 game midway through the fourth quarter. All right. So when we're talking about game control, game management. Now, the other thing, obviously, is that the kicker is a defenseless player and by rule gets special consideration. And in this particular case, he is displaced. All right. Now, I don't see this as roughing the kicker. I don't see the plant leg in danger, but he's clearly contacted. So this is a play that would be the perfect opportunity to put one down for running into the kicker. Now, at the discretion of Team A, they can enforce that half the distance to the goal, repeat the try, or they can decline the running in the kicker and take the PAT. All right, now why that's important is the next play. This is clip 103. All right, so this is 4 plays later. Now, obviously, Team A got the ball back and scored again. All right. Just a few seconds off the clock. Watch what happens at the top of the screen with that player coming around the corner. All right. Now, I don't know for sure that that player wasn't involved in the running into the kicker situation on the previous clip. He may have been. All right. But we do have things that become progressive. We need to understand and we need to be listening to our players and we need to talk with them. The umpire in there should be saying, all right, guys, let's not do anything silly. Let's make sure we keep it clean, that kind of thing, letting them know, reinforcing the fact that we're there and we want things to end successfully. All right. Now, maybe because we didn't get the previous running into, this happens. We'll never know. All right. But the other part of um, this is targeting. I think we would all agree that this is a targeting foul. Now, the question becomes, is there intent to injury? Okay. And based on this, he's leading, he's launching. Um, this is helmet to helmet. Doesn't get much more straightforward than that. We've got to consider disqualifying this player just from a safety standpoint. All right. Now, how do we handle potential disqualifications? First of all, we don't have a single person making that decision. We bring other people into it to discuss um, whether disqualification is warranted. I believe in this particular case that it certainly should be considered and would support it, but I'm not the coordinator. Those decisions come above my level. But this is
Rich, that player was disqualified in that game.
okay. Thank you, Jerry. Glad to hear it. And that was the right decision, and I'm sure that's going to be supported. But the other point that we can't lose sight of is maybe we don't have this problem if we get the running into on the previous clip. All right. All right. Last clip. We're just past 8 o'clock, so we're going to call it a night here shortly. Now, this is another thought-provoking play. All right. Now, first of all, let's take a scenario where this Team B player touches the ball. He's able to deflect the ball at about, what was it, the 20, the 15. What do we need to do here? 20-yard line. We need to have a wind of the clock. That tells everyone that the kick was touched, all right? And then obviously at the end of the play, we want to make sure that the clock did move. But in this particular case, let's just say that it doesn't. All right, so the question that I have for you is, does momentum apply if this returner, instead of circling around the ball, takes a direct line to it, scoops this ball up at the 2, maybe 1 yard line, and takes it back into the end zone, and then is tackled there? Would you rule momentum? If, when in doubt, I would say you would want to drop a beanbag in the field of play, indicating that that's where possession changed, where we had firm control of the ball, so that if later we have to come back and reference that point, we can come back to the beanbag. All right. Now, in this particular case, it does not apply because he goes around the ball, fields the ball parallel to the goal line. So momentum is not going to be an option. All right. But think of it from this player recovering this ball straight on and momentum taking him in between the G and the S in the end zone, and he ends up being tackled there. Now, that's going to be a play that the short wings and the the referee will handle, but potentially in different circumstances, this could also apply to our back judge, either alone in a 5-person crew and with the 2 deep judges, if we're in a 7. Okay. Now, um, for instance, let's say that this is a punt and this gets muffed at the 20, and now the original momentum takes that kick returner back into the end zone. So do some research on that. That can be a good discussion point for your pregame this week. We didn't get to all the video tonight, but the ones that we did, hopefully were helpful to you. we need, I'm going to keep talking about crew culture. And part of crew culture, a big part of crew culture is what you're doing during the week. We need to be having individual discussions between officials, whether it's the two sideline officials, umpire, referee, maybe the two line of scrimmage people. We need to have that communication, that dialogue that's taking place, so that when we get to the game site on Friday night, our conversation is, I've been thinking about that play we discussed this week, and maybe we ought to think of it this way. It takes it to a new level as opposed to trying to break all of your ground in the car on the way to the game. All right. We've just got, we need to use the technology that we have, whether it's Zoom, whether it's cell phone, whatever it happens to be, so that we're prepared not only for the game, but we're building that credibility with each other so that when we do get into a game, we're more comfortable, as Mike Gentry's crew did, to come in and say, "Hey, that guy that got held just made the tackle," you know, and this isn't consistent with what we've done earlier in the game. That's how you build credibility within your crew. And those are the kinds of things that get noticed and help you advance in your career and certainly get better schedules. So, all the best this week on your games. Keep working hard. Um, Mechanics, 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 and communication out on the field will take you a long way. So, next Tuesday, 7 o'clock, we'll do it again. And one last reminder, referees, look for those teachable moment kind of situations like Mike had, and also what Caleb presented. Those are great discussion plays for us, as well as general clips. So please send those to me as early as possible so that I have time to organize things for Tuesday night. So with that, thank you, everyone. Enjoy what's left of the evening and go Tigers.